Hello everyone, it's Crystal Ether here to review these astral-aligned heroes. This Passion Attribute set is a great addition for the South Sector, whose spring event cards are underpowered even during their initial release. Focusing on critical rate and critical damage, these heroes are ready to shoot for the stars in this Union event and have the potential for some impressive damage. Friendly reminder, if you really like a card, then go for it. This is a single-player game, so you should enjoy your roster how you like. And if you found the review helpful, I'd appreciate if you considered subscribing to the channel. Will's most recent 4-star Passion card is quite good even when limited by link partners, but his Zodiac version doesn't disappoint. With plenty of ways to buff the team's damage output, this event card has plenty of use both within his sector or as part of a general support role for non-South teams. Having both a stackable and flat critical rate buff is amazing for maximizing critical rate on turn 1, assuming you don't have any heroes who have their own critical rate buff that typically accompanies a BP generation self buff. The value of this card is excellent for newer players or players using 2 or more DPS cards in their setups, but those with specific or hypercarry setups might find this Will card lacking in ramp speed, even with the damage modifier. There isn't much to say, this card is just good at his job. Nothing super special, but really easy to slap anywhere in any Passion team. I recommend equipping this event card with the Hunting Frame to provide better support to the team, as most of his frames suffer from very long cooldowns, are unsuitable for a support role, or have overlap with Zodiac Will's current skill set. Otherwise, Will's Summer Frame decreases the defense of all enemies, though being an AoE debuff means it won't be as effective as other skills or frames that target a single foe. Brad's Zodiac card may be as simple as other Union 3-star cards, but its effects are strong enough to surpass most of them released this year. Buffs for critical damage and increased damage against cool enemies is already quite valuable, but bringing a strong single target debuff is icing on the cake with its low cooldown. Acquiring 30 BP is likely the biggest challenge, as you don't want this card to be attacking over your main DPS, but it's not a deal breaker. Zodiac Brad's biggest drawback is the initial cooldown behind his buffs, which is incentive to limit break him to reduce it to a single turn. So, keeping that in mind, any support-oriented frame, such as his first birthday frame, works well with his Brad card, though his low attack means he won't be healing as much compared to 4-star heroes. Not that that's important with this frame, compared to the attack orb generation buff it provides to the team. Brad's Winter Sports frame provides an attack and BP regeneration stackable buff that Zodiac Brad can't provide on his own, but make sure that his HP doesn't dip below 60% or he won't be able to activate the skill. As an alternative to his Winter Sports frame, Brad's Pool Party frame trades BP regeneration for burst damage, but is accessible due to its lower rarity. However, the passive is useless on him due to its brave-only nature, so survivability is a risk to Zodiac Brad unless you have a way to heal up or can complete the battle quickly. Oscar's skill set has more drawbacks than his fellow 3-star, but isn't as useful offensive-wise. His HP regeneration buff and BP boost are too weak to be useful, leaving only a level 2 stackable critical rate buff as his only notable part of his skill set. Great to have, but ultimately not worth the initial cooldown and BP requirement to use. If you have his New Year's 2024 event card from earlier this year, it's a better option to use for support, no question. Oscar is admittedly, definitely the worst hero in the roster to play a support role, especially for a 3-star card. Zodiac Oscar's low attack stat means he can't get much mileage out of the Hunting Frame unless the battle is under a skill damage based survival battle event, and most of his frames either rely on niche effects like tanking or work much better for a DPS role. I recommend Oscar's Cooking Frame in this case, as the 3-turn initial cooldown aligns with the skills on this event card at low limit break levels, which can be an option for setting up high damage turns and is one of the better support options for the Mentor in his frame roster, with a minor attack and defense buff and granting all allies a special attack orb. If you don't want to use that, a generic support frame from Union or special events can be used instead, preferably ones that provide BP gauge or buffs offensive stats. The poster boy makes his return with a smile to light up the night and a cute crab buddy for company. Zodiac Akira is a DPS hero that's stuck in the middle compared to other modern DPS cards. His flat and stackable critical damage buffs are useful in increasing his damage ceiling, but Akira is reliant on frames or ally buffs to actually land those critical hits. His first skill also increases his BP gauge, but the BP generation upon critical hit effect is much more valuable, and it's a shame Akira doesn't have it. And, well, a stackable attack buff isn't bad, but a damage modifier is preferable since that effect is harder to replicate, especially when the skill to activate it costs 30 PP gauge. Zodiac Akira's second skill, being a team-wide buff, just doesn't work nearly as well as a self-buff for his role. He'll be an asset for newer players, but this card will be outpaced by other DPS cards with better skill effects without some help from his team. Thankfully, Akira has frames that can help solve his problems, such as his Chapter 1 frame. While the critical damage buff from the frame skill won't apply while Zodiac Akira's first skill is in effect, it can supplement his damage while on cooldown. The critical rate boost isn't significant compared to other critical rate boosting frames, but it can help bridge the gap between a critical hit or not at all. Zodiac Akira doesn't have a way to inflict the burn debuff either to activate the damage modifier on this frame, but the active frame skill effects are good enough without it. For more accessible options, his 3-star Chapter 1 frame is both a BP battery and has minor skill damage attached to its active skill, regenerating up to 20% BP gauge at max limit break and has some use in skill damage based survival battles. Akira's first birthday frame is another mainframe option his Zodiac version can use, providing a medium attack buff to himself alongside a special attack orb, with a decently short cooldown of 6 turns at no limit breaks. However, its limited status and modest skill effects means it isn't really worth chasing if you have other options available. Zodiac South is a very beautiful piece of bait with the 4th anniversary of Helios Rising Heroes coming soon, and definitely not a must-pull despite being a significant upgrade for South's Passion lineup. They'll join the common pool after a few months, so you can hold out until then. This event then won't be destroying bosses any harder than most modern Union cards released this year. That's all for this review for these pretty and Ruby Robin cards. Hopefully this review has helped you to decide whether to save or spend your precious gacha currency, and I'll see you all in the next video.